So, good afternoon, everyone. Wow, it worked. You're right, they could keep silent. So, okay, welcome to our session on automation. Uh, Thanks. And moving from the I've got a bright idea to how the hell do I get this to work? Um, I will be presenting some basically half of the presentation. My colleague Mass will take over afterwards. The reason Mass is not saying anything is because we're recording, and he thinks he will get the mic later. So at the end of the session, we will have a short QA, and you're welcome to ask questions on the, yeah, basically anything that relates to the topic, uh, please. So a quick presentation of me, and I'll do a short presentation of you also, because I got the mic. Mats and I have both worked with virtualization for several years, and we are both V experts. We stand here in our as members of the VMUG, as community speakers. We incidentally work for the same company, which is why you will see some company slides. It was easier; those were the tools that we had available. But we're actually here as fellow VMUGers. So next year, one of you might be up here instead of us. We are both V experts. I've been it for a number of years due to my involvement with the VMUGs, and Mass has recently joined the ranks of V experts and will probably be for many years forward. So on that one, let's get started. This is what it's all about. The end. Where do you want to go with your automation project or your orchestration project? What is it that you want to achieve? When you start a project like this, the worst thing you can do is embark this journey without knowing where you're going. Because how are you going to do a strategy for reaching your goal if you do not know where your goal is? You'll probably do a lot of cool things, but you'll never get anywhere. So when starting this, first thing on the agenda at the first meeting you're having with your boss, your organization, or whomever you're talking to about automating or orchestrating anything is to set this. Where do we want to go? What do we want to achieve? That is the most important thing to know in a project like this. After you found out where you want to go, then you can start thinking about how am I going to get there? How are we going to get there? And I'm going to go through a couple of the issues or the non-technical issues that we usually run into when we talk about projects like going and automating or orchestrating whatever process we're looking at. So, of course, we want to automate everything right away. How many people do think that that is a good idea? Let's start up, automate everything. You're wrong. Sorry, guys. So, okay, I'm just gonna give you 2 seconds to come in and sit down. Good. So, starting out an automation project, saying that we want to automate everything in our server room or all the process in our HR department. It's a great goal. The success rate for actually getting there requires some planning. I would start in the other end. Start small. Start with a single task, a single process that you want to go into and have a look at. So, okay, how am I actually going to do this? Look at the specific task, then work your way up. Now I've done this, then we can do this. Then you will grow and grow in your automation journey and reach what do you do? Oh. At a certain point, you will look back and say, wow, I've actually automated our whole server deployment process. Great, from A to Z. But do not start out with taking too much in, because the risk of not reaching your goal will be quite big. Yeah, as I said, don't try to automate everything at once. So this is what we all want out of our project. We want the project to be a success. We want to be sure that at the end of the day, after we've done this, we can go home and say, well, we did good, because we reached our goal. But to know, one thing is to have a goal. To know when you have reached your goal is equally important. So you might have a process that you think is working great, but some of the people buying into this specific automated service might not be happy. So be sure that you have a good understanding on when you will be a success, and be sure that you can hold that up against something that you can measure. Yes, we've actually reached it. Look, see, we are a success because we reached the goal that we set out to do. How am I doing? Okay. Good. Then you need to go into your organization and look at the involved parties. So let's say you go as a VMware admin, you go in, you implement a orchestration tool, and you start up saying, I want to to automate the network. Then you go talk to the network department. They will start out by killing you and throwing you out, because that is not going to happen. They own the network. So you go talk to their boss. That always works. And then you find out, how can you help your boss or their boss be a success in delivering his network services to. So what's in it for him is basically what I'm saying. You have to go to whatever management you have there and say, look, we can do this, and this is what's in it for you. When you find out how you can help the guys you're talking to actually reaching a higher understanding of whatever that you want to do, they will buy into the automation idea. That one is a good one. Make sure that this is whatever manager you have, or if you're a consultant, you're going to the customer, make sure that you're hitting them at the right place with your automation idea. You can probably go in and talk to a whole lot of technicians, and there are probably some among you saying, we don't need this automation because that will lose me my job. Well, if you are into delivering the idea of automation and orchestration, you might need to rise a bit above that, sorry. So you need to, when you launch a project like this, make sure that you have the executive sponsorship to help you get over those bumps in the road. So get approval from the man and the man himself. Make sure you have the managerial approval to get through the automation project. And you will absolutely meet this approval in the on the floor with some parts of your business. If you go into say you go into an HR department and you want to orchestrate some of their tasks, you will probably meet resistance from the girls sitting doing those jobs by hand today. So be aware of that when you go into it. I think that might have been my mistake. Yeah, I know, chubby fingers. Well, also the fingers, but anyway. So, when you start up your automation idea and project, you have to find out, okay, what's the business case on actually doing this? I was recently at a customer explaining that why automation, and in this case, we realize automation, was the best thing since sliced bread. And I spent a whole hour talking to him of the wonders of actually automating his whole process. And he was like, yeah, good. What's in it for me? And I was like, well, haven't you heard what I said the whole last hour? But he went on and said, look, why am I to spend 4 million Danish kroners on the software and the project that you're selling if I can hire 2 guys to sit and do that for the next 3 years at half the price? And then you start by, well, in my case, I backpedaled because I wasn't really prepared for it. So you need to look at yourself and say, what does it actually cost to go in and automate a process? Is this something that you can actually gain anything on, or are you just doing this because it's easier, or you're basically lazy and only want to press a button? So have a good idea of the economics of your project, especially first of all the price of whatever software you're going to use, but also try to get an insight into how much money will the company you work for, or the customer you work for, save when you go in and help them free up some time to do other things. We have this. Let me just be sure that I don't fuck things up again. This fantastic matrix up here tells us that, or illustrates that, well, there are some areas that are just not worth bothering. I mean, if you have a single task that takes a second and you do it once a year, yay, you gave 5 seconds over 5 years. That might not be the right place to start. But if you go further down the matrix, you would actually see that some things that you do repeatedly and it takes a little while, if you can go in, do things smarter there, you can actually save up a whole lot of time. And as time is money, be sure to translate that to whoever has the budget. So, okay. Then, yes? Exactly, exactly. So basically what you're saying is that the important thing is to make sure that the process actually happens the same time every single time in some way. No, prefer the same way. Yeah, preferably the same way. Which is a did I pay you to ask that question at this specific time? Okay, good. That was good money. Yeah, I owe you a beer. So no, so when you start going in and looking at the process or task that you want to orchestrate or automate, be sure that you know the process. Go through the process a lot of time, because that is actually, as Stefan said, one of the gains of doing this. You will do it in exactly the same way each time. But if you don't know what that way is, then you can't do it the same way every time. So take the process that you want to orchestrate, go through it, go to it tons of times, draw on a piece of paper, process diagrams, make sure you have it mapped completely before applying tech to it. Then you can also say, well, if I have it mapped out completely, I can set someone to do it in exactly the same way every single time. And that will of course work if you take out the human factor of it. So be sure to know your processes, be sure to that they are actually what you think they are. We tend to see that when we come out to customers discussing their processes on whatever it might be, at the first meeting the customer says, well, this is my process for doing blah, 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 blah. And it looks exactly like this. And then we go down to the people doing the process and ask them to start working on it, even though they have a step-by-step manual next to them. That's just not what is happening. They will do it differently every single time. So I'm a bit ahead of schedule now. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Okay, so one of the things that we usually see when we're talking orchestration and automation, I mean these two words fit neatly into products, VMware products, as Mads will come into later. So when we look at automation or orchestration from a from a DevOps perspective, usually when you talk about orchestration, you're talking about taking a whole process from A to Z and then making that in exactly the same way every single time, making sure that it is orchestrated all the way through. That might include automating some of the tasks in that process. Hopefully it would. I mean, but you can still have say an orchestration workflow where, wow, that is an annoying place. You could have an orchestrating workflow actually having manual steps in it. So basically what I want to say is that orchestration, from the perspective that we see it, is process-based, where automation is task-based. That's going in, solving a single task. Just going to stand here. I think that's not winding up. Okay. I did it again, sorry. So, tools of the trade. This is where the blah blah stops. That means I'm going to sit down and Mads going to take over.
Yes. I will be talking about some of the tools that you might be using for orchestrating or automating some of the tasks. These are not the only solution. It's just some of VMware's products, and it's some of the products we use in our daily base when working on these projects. So first of all, we will be talking about PowerCLI. How many of you know PowerCLI? How many of you use it daily-ish? Okay, so as I expected, a lot of you already know it. Most of you already use it. It's a very cool tool. You can do a lot with it in regards to VMware. It's based on PowerShell, and it integrates very good with the vSphere stack from VMware. So you can do almost anything with PowerCLI. That's perfectly fine. But it's not a tool that is fit for the cloud era. You cannot do a self-service portal and make it available to every customer. That's not the right tool for that job. But it's a great tool for automating some of the daily tasks that you might have in your daily work in the data center. It can be integrated into the vSphere web client. So if you have some daily scripts that you would like to use and run on specific VMs, specific data store clusters or whatever, you can put that into the vSphere web client using a fling from VMware called Power Actions, which is a newer release. Here are some, should have said resources, it says references, whatever. Here are some PowerCLI resources where you can go and find more information about PowerCLI and how to get you up to speed, get better, or get help if you need help. So it's just for your information. I won't talk about a lot about PowerCLI because most of you already know it. So just for your information. The next one is formerly known as vCenter Orchestrator, or now known as vRealize Orchestrator, which is a JavaScript-based workflow engine, which can run either scheduled or on-demand workflows that can automate not only the vSphere stack, but most of the VMware products, along with a lot of other products from either Microsoft, the storage vendors, network stuff, whatever you almost want. And it also has integration with REST APIs. You can run Power CLI or PowerShell scripts from it. So a lot of opportunities to automate almost whatever solution or whatever job you had at hand. It's not the easiest product to get started with, but it is a very powerful tool. It is included with the vSphere vCenter server. So if you have a vCenter server, you are good to go. You can either download the appliance, which is available, or you can just activate the service on the vCenter Windows-based installation. Yeah, and now Nicolai thought this was fun. It's not the official abbreviation, but it could be. So, and again, some references and resources where you can get either help or a lot of information. The one I would like to point out is the FlowGrab, the second from the bottom, which is an online community where you can share and get help on the VCO workflows. So when you have created a workflow or created a solution in VCO, please do share it. There is no meaning in that everybody is designing and developing the same solution everywhere. Maybe you don't want to share all your secrets, but then generalize it and put it up so other people can benefit from it. So that's probably down the road will it be the go-to place for VCO or vRealize Orchestrator solutions. But the other websites are very good for general knowledge or for solutions and for blog posts on how to circumvent a specific problem if you encounter some. The book at the top is not new, but it's still relevant. There's a lot of good information. The product has changed, so it's not the completely same product interface wise, but all the code and all the ideas are useful still. And also there is a VCAC user group in Denmark where there is a lot of talk about Orchestrator because VCAC is heavily dependent on Orchestrator to do its work. So it's if we take it on a scale, we have the Power CLI at the bottom where you can do manual tasks in an automated fashion. You can distribute these and run them from the vSphere web client, but they are primarily interesting for the admins or for the data center guys. This is not for the end user. The Orchestrator, you could do a web-based portal. It has a web operator built in, which is a small web server where you can run the workflows from, get feedback and get the inputs from the user. So you can do not a self-service portal, but you can provide some of your automating tasks to the end user in a more civilized fashion. The next step up the ladder is the final cloud solution where you have a nice interface for the end user for provisioning whatever he wants. It could be a HR new employee, or it could be a VM in the cloud, or it could be a VM in your data center, whatever. And from VMware, it's done with the vRealize Automation product, which is the new name for vCenter Automation Center. vCloud Automation Center, sorry. Yeah, the naming always gets me wrong. So this is the end goal for everything in automating and orchestrating from VMware. But not everyone will end up here because your business might not need it, depending on what you're doing. But that's the end of the journey seen from VMware point of view. You can do the self-service portal, where you can do provisioning on physical hardware, on private cloud, hybrid cloud, public cloud. It supports other clouds than VMware's own, so you can do it in Amazon as well, if you want or if you need to do that. You have the complete lifecycle management built into it, so if you provision a VM or a service or a server, you can then at a later point decommission this as well and run specific tasks that cleans up whatever you have done during the provisioning. So it knows about who has deployed what. It knows about the ownership of whose VMs are those, who can manipulate those, and it also has the history of what have been done and when it has been done. So it's a very big and somewhat complex solution, but it can solve a lot of problems for some industries and some companies, but not necessarily everybody. So we have, again, some references or some resources where you can pick up more knowledge about this product. A lot of blog posts from different bloggers around. We have, again, the VCAC user group, which will be providing information and teaching on how to do stuff in the VCAC realize automation product, alongside the orchestrator product as well, because, as I said, these two are very linked. So if you need to do specific tasks, or you need to do complex tasks, let's put it that way, it will most likely be that the realized automation product will call upon realized orchestrator to actually do the work. You have the front end and you have the back end. So that's how the two products are linked to some extent. So you cannot, you can use realized automation without it, but most people will also need the orchestrator part as well. So that is a very needed product when working with automation and orchestration from VMware point of view. Thank you very much.